I don't ever know if I'm ready.
Okay. All right. Are we good?
Let's address the elephant in the room right now before you even sit down.
Okay.
This headband, okay?
Can I sit down?
Yeah, now you
Okay,
can.
now I can. Okay.
This headband is on because I could not figure out how to do my hair. It is so greasy. And the bangs were just so unruly. And this is where we're at. This is what we settled on. This was the best that I could do given my circumstance and tools at my disposal.
Yeah,
So,
I unfortunately don't have what you needed, right? I was supposed to have dry shampoo, but it was the tiny minuscule.
A whisper.
Yeah, so it was an empty can of dry shampoo because I don't use it because those people with curly hair don't need anything to do with grease. So, but it is
lightning.
grease light.
I was going to say Danny DeVito.
Oh, that is. Could you imagine if Danny DeVito played Danny in Grease?
Yes.
What an absolute pleasure that is going on in my brain right now. Wow.
That would be a masterclass. Who do we call to make it happen? Oh my God.
Danny DeVito, if you're watching this,
we've got a gig for you.
You've missed an opportunity in your career. Anyway.
Are you doing opening or am I?
Oh, I see. We don't think about this before we do it. I think you are.
Okay.
Yeah. You got this.
Welcome to Chit Chats, a completely unedited space where we break the cycle of what it means to be a woman together. We're talking about breakups.
It's time. We knew it was coming.
Yeah. And sometimes you know it's coming before you actually break up with the said person. Or they break up with you. I've had a few of those. I knew with this one particular breakup, I knew he was going to do it.
So, I have to say I've never broken up with anyone. I've always been on the opposite side of the spectrum.
Yeah.
I'm the one being broken up with in all of my relationships. Yeah. So I think the way that we should go into this is talk about, Squash is going to join us, is talk about our breakup stories or like the worst breakup stories, because I know mine is pretty intense, and
mine's going to be a lighter, a lighter, a little bit more comical.
So should I start then, and then we can end off on a funny note?
On a funny note, yeah. Let's first talk about breakups and how painful they can be for both parties.
Just with my water.
Because I think there's a common misconception that it only sucks for the person getting dumped.
Yes.
False. It is horribly painful.
And I can't speak to that, so that's good
that
you're here.
It's horribly painful for the person that does it. I've done my fair share of breaking up. Some have been devastating, and some have been like, oh, Jesus, what a relief, I'm finally out of here,
Yeah.
But you still don't feel good that you're breaking up with someone.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing I want to preface it with, is that
it doesn't feel good either
It doesn't feel good either way, unless it was a really toxic relationship, and then you are like blasting music in the car as you're peeling out of the driveway and heading home, and you're like, I'm free!
Thank goodness.
And so, which I've done that too. But that also then led into,
did
I make the right choice?
Yeah, all of that good stuff.
And you inevitably, with toxic relationships, you find later on down the road, you did make the right choice.
Yeah, I mean, when I broke up with my first high school boyfriend, who we had consensual sex together for the first time. I know, crazy.
Intercourse, if you will.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure what YouTube would do with that, if they would just demonetize. It doesn't matter.
Demonetize.
It's all good. Last time we spoke about death, today is sex. But we had sex, and when we broke up, it was a long, hairy relationship, as most, I think, people's relationships are in high school. And when I finally was able to cut that cord, I walked away from that situation, and I did what you just said. I went, yes! And I went into the car, and I pumped my music, and I got out of there, and I was like, I did it! I got myself out of that situation, because it was really bad.
Yeah.
I'll share that once upon a time story. I'm sure it will come out one day. But the breakup that I wanted to focus on today was with the man that I dated before Miguel. It was my first serious relationship, my last serious relationship before I met my husband. Of course, like I said last week, I dated in between. It was about 2 years before I met my husband after this breakup, but I'm thankful for those 2 years. So this guy and I had met online. I met a lot of my relationships online because I didn't go out during college or meet people. I'm not a people person. So I met this guy. We hit it off immediately. He came up to visit me at college, found out, crazily enough, that our parents were working at the same place and tried to set us up for years. So immediately in my lovely Emily brain, I went, well, this is meant to be. In Judaism, it's called bat shert, right? If I'm pronouncing that wrong, I deeply apologize. So I was like, great, he's the person. I know this is supposed to happen. And we dated. And then I moved in and we lived together for about 1.5 years. Now, this person was a modern Orthodox Jew, is what he considered himself, which meant that he was, of course, not allowed to live with somebody and also not allowed to have sex. We had a lot of sex. I apologize to my brother and my dad that are listening to this. My God, I apologize, but whatever. So we lived together, and literally every time his parents came over, I had to hide all of my belongings because they could not know that I lived in our apartment that we shared.
You know what's funny is that I've heard these stories before, but I'm reacting like it's the first time I'm ever hearing them because it's still just so mind-blowing to me.
Yeah, it's pretty upsetting. I literally just told a friend that I had reconnected with this story, and she, like, her mouth was like agape the whole time.
Because you get older and you start to realize that that's super unhealthy.
Yeah. Oh, totally. And I also, like, I had to dress in a certain way because his family was Orthodox, totally. So I had to hide that I had my tattoo. I had to dress more ladylike. I couldn't wear pants. Like, there was a whole bunch of things. So I had to basically hide who I really was. So fast forward, I'm totally in love with this guy, or what I think is love. We're living together, but his parents don't know. And we decide to take a trip on vacation, the two of us, to Mexico. We've never been. We were like, we're gonna go. So we go to Mexico. We have a great time, a really, really good time. Come back from Mexico. We're watching my mom's dog. She's away for the weekend. And I was going back to Florida in 2 days. So the night before, we had a great night. We woke up that morning, had some more sex, told me he loved me, took me to the airport. I had bought him a ticket to come to Florida when we were in Mexico because the flight was just so cheap. I was like, $200, I'll buy it for you and I'll see you in 2 weeks, because we were going back and forth. So bought him the ticket. He drove me to the airport. We kissed. We told each other we loved each other, that we'll see each other in 2 weeks. And I got on the plane. I told him, when I land, I'll text you and let you know that I'm safe. I love you. Turned off my phone, didn't even wait for him to respond. Well, a lot happened on that plane ride that I didn't know about until I landed. So here comes the breakup part. When I turned on my phone after that 2.5-hour plane ride, I received 3 or 4 text messages. I mean, it's been a long time. And I don't have them anymore, thank God, because those would kill me. But I had like 3 or 4 text messages from him basically saying, I can't do this anymore. I'm sorry. And that was sick.
Over text.
Over a text. Let it be known that we lived together in the apartment that we shared in Brooklyn. But he decided to text me and let me know. Remember, I had bought him a plane ticket for 2 weeks later. We had literally just gone on vacation, and we had literally just had sex that morning, and we told each other we loved one another. Totally blindsided. So there goes my first ever and only full-blown panic attack. I mean, wow. Stephanie is correct. It feels like you're gonna die. Yeah. I literally didn't know what was happening. I was alone on this plane with strangers. I had been, of course, broken up with before, but my parents, my brothers had always been there. So I'm in a totally different state than all of them. I'm hyperventilating. I don't know what to do. And the only thing that I can think of is Gilmore Girls, and how when Luke and Lorelai, spoiler alert, break up one of the times, Lorelai decides to call Luke, and she leaves him this voicemail, and she's just absolutely heartbroken. Yeah, I played it for you when you broke up, when you had your breakup. But she calls him and she says, listen, I don't know what to do. You're the only person I want to talk to because you're my best friend. And I really want to talk to my best friend. And I was like, I'm going to pull that same card. So I called him. He picked up the phone. I'm like, I don't even know what's happening. He's like, I can't do this right now. My mom's over. I think it was close to being like Mother's Day, or we were celebrating for some reason. We had bought her a gift together. His mom was over. He was like, I can't talk about that. Mom's here. I gotta go. So we hang up the phone. And then once again, the panic ensues. I'm just waiting on this plane as everybody waits, as everyone's getting their freaking luggage out from overhead. And I'm in the back of the plane. Things are I'm just like so confused and just overwhelmed. So I finally get off the plane, and now I start crying. And I'm calling my parents, and I'm on the phone with them, and I'm telling them what's happening. And my mom is freaking out because she's not there. So she immediately is like, I'm gonna call my sister who lives in Florida. She's gonna come pick you up from the airport. You'll be okay. I'm hysterical. Everyone's looking at me, which therefore is making the panic even worse.
Yeah.
So I finally get my bags. I'm hysterically crying still. I wait outside for my aunt. And while I'm waiting, this really nice police officer comes over because she sees and has heard now from all the other strangers in this airport that there is a woman just hysterical. So she thought something bad had happened. It did, but not physical. So she was like, are you okay? I said, I'm fine. My boyfriend just broke up with me over text. We've been together. We live together. She was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. That's awful. I was like, it is awful. So she leaves me alone. My aunt comes, she picks me up. She takes me out to go get tacos. What a great way to break up food. Really good breakup food. Tacos, delicious. So it's that night, and I still have not heard from him. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to call him back. His parents are probably gone by now. So I call him back. He picks up the phone. I'm like, I was so mad at that point that I just was yelling at him. I couldn't even ask him the questions that I needed to ask, right, for closure. Like, what happened? Are you going to grace us with your presence, Simone? I'm going to be in shock. Oh, he's really close to coming onto camera. Want to come over here? Wow, the prince has arrived. I'm in shock. This is my other cat, Simone.
Just like you were when you got dumped over text.
Oh my God. So
he can sense your nerves.
Yeah, he can sense my anxiety of just retelling the story. So I'm on the phone, I'm yelling at him, and I'm like, what happened? He's like, I can't do it anymore. I'm so sorry. I'm like, why would you tell me that you love me? Why would you let me buy you a plane ticket? Like, all of this, I'm just so confused. Why would you do that? And he really didn't have any answers, or not answers that I remember, because once again, I was just emotions were so overwhelming. So I remember I was just kind of like, you know what? I'm done. I don't want to talk to you ever again. My mom will come pick up my stuff, put it in boxes, and we're done. This is it. I don't want to hear from you. So we hung up the phone. And that is the last time I ever spoke to him, literally. So still, it's probably like 8 years later now, I have absolutely no closure on the relationship because I do not know what happened. Squash's ears are just like in the frame, like, hello. And that really sucks because that was really painful.
Yeah.
Especially when you're living together and you're making plans for the future, and like, you tell somebody that you love them and that means something. And the fact that it was done in such a cowardly way over text message after being together for so long, it really hurt. And still sometimes I have dreams all the time about him and that relationship because my brain just can't compute what happened.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think when you're in, I wouldn't say that I had a relationship recently, but I had, like a fling, and it just like abruptly stopped, and then he started talking to me again, and I still am just like extremely confused as to like what happened. It's just a very bizarre situation. There's no closure, and that does it. It screws with your head a little bit because you're like, and like they, and especially when they won't tell you.
Yeah, he literally wouldn't tell me or couldn't tell me, and it was really painful. Like that was the most pain I think I've ever been in. It was heartbreak. I was so devastated for so long. It took me 2 years to really get back to like being fulfilled and know myself, and then that's when I met Miguel, and I'm so thankful. And now, of course, looking back, right, which is of course what I want to end on happy notes, is looking back, I know that wasn't the right relationship. I know that wasn't the right person. The fact that I had to hide who I am and my beliefs and the thing that I have on my body that I value so much, my tattoo, and like all of that stuff, I know it was wrong, because when you're in love and when you're in the right relationship, it should be open and honest and communicative, and it wasn't. It was just, at the time, I thought that's what it was. So that's my breakup story. It's pretty insane. It's usually a good party story to get going. And also to just like...
to really bring the mood down, and everyone's like, I have to go. I left
party.
my stove on. It's a great party story. People
really
are like,
way to get
your
to know
friend
me.
Emily is like real depressing.
Sorry.
It's a great party story for the right party,
This
the
is
right
why
crowd.
This is why I don't go to parties. Anyway,
So
it's your turn.
I have one that's not as... I have a few, but I'm choosing...
I have a few too.
I'm choosing the one that actually still to this day is comical to me now. So
leave it off on a high note. This is a story that you would tell at a party.
So I did, which makes people go, what were you doing? So I dated a guy who I met in a show. I had just gotten out of like a 5-year relationship. So it was very much lusty. He was hot.
Hot.
Yeah, he was real attractive. And we ended up being together for like, I think it was like a year, maybe, and some change.
Yeah.
But we were never really officially together because he would tell me things like, I look at you as my girlfriend, but like without the title, and like I feel like your boyfriend. Yeah, and so it was like we were together, but we weren't. Yeah, and now I see in hindsight 2020, I should have been like, either we are together or we're not. Yeah. He introduced me as his girlfriend once to his current girlfriend now, and it was funny because even at the time, I could just tell by her reaction. I was like, huh. And I remember asking him, I said, that girl, I was like, she seemed like she didn't really like me. And he's like, oh yeah, I don't know, she's just like that. And I was like, so now in hindsight, because
hindsight's 2020,
I'll give you
baby.
the full skinny. So I could tell that he was pulling back and being distant. And, so I would drive to visit him because he lived 3 hours away from where I was. So I would always constantly drive to visit him because he worked over yonder. And I drove over there, and I just knew. I knew driving up, I was like, I think this is it. Yeah, and it was around 4th of July weekend. And we ended up... camera died.
It did. But we're back. All right. You were at 4th of July.
It was 4th of July weekend. And we went and got breakfast. He told me in the car, can't do this anymore. Couldn't tell you what the actual reason was.
I'm ruined breakfast food.
I will be honest, I have speculations. We'll get into that in a second. So here's where it starts to get a little bit comical. Now, in a breakup situation, you would think, go home, get a hotel, spend the night, go home. I didn't. I stayed with this man for the next 2 days, full well knowing that we were breaking up, okay? The weird part about it, we were still holding hands, we were still kissing. It is weird. And like, if you've seen Star Trek, now at the time, he told me this, and I like, because I had never watched it, but now I'm like, holy cow, he was right. And that's actually pretty, I was like, all right, that's pretty clever. So in Star Trek, there's a planet called Risa, and when you break up with each other, you like spend time together as almost like a,
that's your closure.
Closure, like ceremony, celebration of the relationship, things like that. So like he had mentioned it, and I just was thinking like, what a douche, you know, like I don't care about this. But now I'm like, he was actually correct. So we ended up spending the next 2 days together. We ended up watching movies and going to the theme parks. And I remember sitting in line at the theme park and thinking to myself, I cannot talk to this man ever again, right? Like I looked up that after a breakup, like what should you do? And they're like, don't talk to them. Like give yourself time, some space. And I told him that. And I remember him saying, well, you know, what am I supposed to do when I want to like call someone and share like the good news about like the things that I'm doing? I don't know, call your mother. Like, what? You barely call me as it is. And anytime that he would call, there were a couple occasions where he would call and I'd give him advice and then he'd like get upset that I gave him advice. I don't know what you want me to do, man.
No.
Oh, here's the really weird part. So one of the days he had to go to work while I was there. So he dropped me off at his best friend's house, who I also happened to meet through the same show. We all did the same show together. And I ended up hanging out with his best friend and like and his friend like got me Taco Bell and was like talking me through this breakup. And like later, him and I had talked about it. He was like, that was the most awkward thing I've ever, like, that's so uncomfortable. And it is, because first of all, why I stuck around is beyond me. I was early 20s. It happens. I was also absolutely infatuated with this man. I put him on such a pedestal because he was so attractive and he was super talented, and I was like, But the way that he had treated me, I was not a priority in his life at all. And I think I was just a hot body to him. I don't really think that there were deep feelings there. So let's see. Fast forward, then after that came pick me up. I got a free like a BB-8
very
thing.
nice.
Yeah, because where he worked at Disney. Spoiler alert. And I don't know what the policies. I don't work at Disney, so I don't care. But he worked at Disney, so when he was there, he was like, I was like, hey, can you pick up that BB-8 mug or whatever cup, whatever it was, because I was interested in it. And I said, I'll pay you back. So when he brought it, he's like, no, you can.
This
can
is your
just have it.
consolation
Yeah, it's my
prize.
Consolation prize for getting dumped after a 3-hour drive to come see you.
Oh God.
So he so then the day comes for me to leave, and we're both like crying, but I was definitely like hysterical.
Yeah.
We like kissed each other goodbye, and then that was it. We didn't talk for like 2 weeks. Out of thin blue air, this man sends me a text message outlining that he just has to get it off his chest, and he there's been times where he feels like he just wants to talk to me, but he can't. You don't have to respond to this. Would this be the first time I've ever received a lengthy text message from an ex? No, it would not. They seem to come back after they've devastated me to really rub salt in the wound a little bit more. So then I find 3 months later, a picture pops up with him and another girl. That's why we broke up. Now it's all coming back to me. I know. He sniffed. He's like, ugh.
smells like bad lying.
Bad lying. No, he said he didn't want to be in a relationship. He just wanted to be single. Which, whatever, I completely understand. That was a lie. Because apparently, because I'm going to do some digging. I'm like, okay, 3 months later.
Stephanie's a very good stalker.
I'm 3 months later. You're with someone. Great. I think that's wonderful. But there were like a lot of pictures and there were just a lot of weird things that started popping up that I was like, timeline wise, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Come to find out, 7 days after we broke up, they went on their first date. 2 weeks. So 10 days. And he texted me. So you went on this date, felt guilty that you caught feelings, which I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, definitely had to have before because I've been there. I know what that's like. You don't just 10 days after breaking up, like magically, like there were stepping stones. So 10 days after he sent me that, after we broke up, he sent me that text. 7 days after we broke up, he got into another relationship or went on a date with this girl.
With a girl, yeah.
So like, but when I saw the picture initially, I called him, we talked, and I told him, I said, well, do you like this girl? And he said, I do. I said, then treat her better than you treated me.
That's a good thing to say.
Yeah.
I like that. Pay it forward to the next relationship.
And they have been together ever since.
There you go.
And I think it's lovely. And quite frankly, I've liked some of their pictures because I'm like, that's adorable. They fit really well together. They both are in the same place in life. He looks extremely in love and happy. She looks in love. And I think it's great. But the comical part of all of this was just like how young I was and the fact that I stuck around for 3 days afterwards. But also the fact that like we celebrated what I now call a situationship. That was not a real relationship. There was
That's a good word.
Yeah, it was a situationship. It was a glorified relationship. We weren't really boyfriend and girlfriend. I think it was just lust and convenience and all that. So yeah, we spent 3 days together. We ate, we drank, we celebrated, we went to the theme parks. We kissed each other goodbye.
There you go.
And he did reach out to me when my grandma had passed away, and I reached out to him probably pretty recently, actually, because I saw his grandmother had passed away, and we were both very close to our grandmothers. So there's no hard feelings.
That's great.
I actually celebrate now when I see, I'm like, good for him. Now I'm at this point where I'm like, is he gonna put a ring on this girl's finger or what? Like, I just, I'm like rooting for her to get the engagement ring. Yeah, at the time I was like, why couldn't it be me? But now I can see things so clearly. And I think something that we learned from breakups and relationships is we think we're never going to be able to heal. We're never going to be able to get better. I was devastated.
You're never going to find the person.
I thought I was never going to find someone else. Yeah. And the truth is I went on to find other people. And I still am dealing with, finding that person and more importantly, finding me. And I think this is what all of this comes down to is learn lessons from your breakups and realize that it is okay to spend time with yourself, especially after a breakup. Yeah. Spend time, date yourself. Don't try to jump into something else right away. Sometimes it lasts wonderful, but more often than not, you'll find that it's just a temporary. You're just trying to put a Band-Aid on an open wound. Yeah. So that's really that. Those are my stories.
I think that's great. I mean, you literally said.
I literally am waiting for the day it comes up on my Facebook that he's popped the question, and I'm gonna be like, congratulate, mazel tov. Like, they've been together for so long. I'm like, Jesus, is he gonna ask her? Because I've been in a long-term relationship where I was like, come on, it's so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you literally took a lot of the words right out of my mouth about just learning lessons from those breakups and taking them as what do you like in a relationship and what do you not like in a relationship. Correct. And taking that into your next relationship. So I totally 100% agree. So I think it's this point where we can say like, subscribe, comment, hit that bell notification that's gonna ding every time we post a new video. And as always, did I miss anything? before I sign out?
Oh, you can check us out at www.cyclechats.com right here. Check us out. We have a blog. We just revamped the entire website, so it should be nice, fun, and fresh for you to take a look around, join us, and you can get, if you sign up for our newsletter, you can get a little recap of what we've done in the prior month and what you can look forward to for next month.
Yeah.
And we've got merch coming out soon, so yeah, some really fun stuff is coming, and we're excited about it. So with that, we hope you sync up with us next time.
Bye, guys. Thanks for being in the picture the whole time, Squash. That was so nice of you.
I don't like when he stares into the void, though, because I'm like, what do you see that I can't?
Oh, no, I like it.